I never thought a plastic pumpkin would turn my entire neighborhood into a psychological battlefield. It started innocently. October, a windy Tuesday morning. I had just placed a goofy, battery-powered jack-o'-lantern on my porch. One I'd picked up from a clearance bin 3 years ago. It flickered like it was trying its best, and honestly, that was the charm. But by noon, an envelope showed up on my mailbox, bright orange, thick paper, stamped with the Crestwood Bluff HOA logo, like it was delivering a national security alert. I thought it was a reminder about the fall meeting I always ignored. Instead, a violation notice. Fine, $250, cause improper seasonal display, remove item within 48 hours, or face further disciplinary action. Improper display? It's a pumpkin. I'm Daniel Mercer, 51 years old, U.S. history teacher, divorced dad, mostly quiet, definitely not the neighborhood rebel. I mow my lawn. I take my trash cans in on time. I even wave at people who never wave back. But Crestwood Bluff is the kind of suburb where conformity isn't just encouraged, it's required. Beige houses, matched fences, HOA-approved mailboxes. You get the picture. And at the top of this beige little empire, Lydia Crowley, president of the HOA. Early 60s, power-dressed, even to walk her dog, and the kind of woman who probably files her emails in color-coded folders named after biblical virtues. The violation was signed by her. Of course it was. I reread the letter 3 times. No skeletons, no fake blood, no political statements, just a smiling pumpkin. I called the HOA, which obviously went to voicemail, and left a message asking for clarification. 3 hours later, someone named Debbie from the board called me back. Sounded like she was reading off a script and deeply regretting her life choices. The board reviewed your display and determined that it violates our updated guidelines regarding visual neutrality and emotional tone. Excuse me, it's a jack-o'-lantern, not a protest banner. We're standardizing front-facing aesthetics this season to maintain neighborhood harmony, she said. I hung up, pacing. Angry? Yeah, but also confused. What kind of world sees a pumpkin as a threat? But then it hit me. This wasn't about the pumpkin. This was about control. And I wasn't the only one. Later that day, my neighbor Jack stopped by. He's 80, wears the same fisherman's cap every day, smells like peppermint and newspaper ink. You got the pumpkin fine? He asked, nodding toward the envelope still clenched in my hand. They got me last year for putting up a nativity scene. Said it was culturally imbalanced, whatever that means. I blinked. Isn't Jesus supposed to be from the Middle East? Apparently not in Crestwood Bluff, he chuckled. And that was the moment I started seeing it. Noticing the silence, the missing decorations, the stripped-down porches, the little things people stopped doing, not because they wanted to, but because they were afraid. The HOA had issued 17 citations in the past month alone. One woman was fined for having wind chimes that disrupted tonal uniformity. A young couple got flagged for hanging plants deemed too expressive. Someone else was cited for an ambiguous flamingo formation. This wasn't just overreach. This was a neighborhood under siege. And Lydia, she wasn't just enforcing bylaws, she was reshaping Crestwood Bluff into her personal vision of order, one porch at a time. Then came the turning point. Every October, Crestwood hosts a community yard sale. It's usually all waffle irons, used puzzles, and polite lies about someone's lemon bars. But this year, I went for one reason. I wanted to see Lydia in her domain. There she was, stationed behind a table, draped in pastel linens, flanked by a perfectly symmetrical display of garden gnomes. Dozens of them, smiling, frowning, one holding a rake like it meant business. Some were disturbingly detailed. One even had chest hair. And the weirdest part? They were arranged in rows like an army, like she was staging a ceramic coup. She saw me staring and smiled. Not the friendly kind, the I know where you live kind. Each gnome has a purpose, she said. Some watch, some warn, some act. I laughed nervously. She didn't. I walked home that day with a chill in my spine. Something about those gnomes, her tone, the way she said act. It unsettled me. And that night, everything changed. Because I met Mason, a teenager who lived 2 blocks over. Scruffy, hoodie-wearing, always sketching in a notebook. His dad, HOA treasurer, one of Lydia's closest allies. Mason pulled me aside, behind the community center. "You're the guy with the pumpkin, right?" I nodded. He looked around, lowered his voice. "My dad says Lydia's been spiraling since the last board vote. She thinks some neighbors are trying to overthrow her leadership. She started keeping files." Files? Locked cabinet? Back office? Names, pictures, notes, even stuff about your ex-wife. He showed me a small silver key. "I can get you in, but if you go through that drawer, be ready. It's not normal." 3 nights later, I opened that cabinet. Inside, I found it. A red leather diary, worn, with a tiny embossed gnome in the corner. No label, no title, just the first line, scribbled on the opening page. "They think I don't see, but the gnomes do." What followed was madness. Entries describing residents' emotional color spectrums, dream journals about HOA members forming underground rebellions, ratings of lawn chairs based on how psychologically submissive they looked. She even had gnome roles. Bartholomew, mood detection. Edna, symmetry enforcement. Magnus, the one who acts when the others only warn. I flipped through dozens of pages of gnome conversations, emotional charts, porch diagrams labeled zones of defiance. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I printed the pages, 37 copies, slid one into every mailbox on the block, like reverse Santa. Then I posted the highlights in our community Facebook group. It exploded. Neighbors who hadn't spoken in years were suddenly connecting dots, sharing their own bizarre citations. One woman commented, "She told me my sunflowers were expressing reckless optimism. I thought it was a metaphor." Within 48 hours, over 500 comments. And Lydia, silent. For 2 days. Not a peep. Until an email arrived. Special HOA meeting, Friday, 7 p.m. Attendance required. We knew what it was. A showdown. That night, the clubhouse was packed. People clutching printouts from the diary. Someone brought a spray-painted gold gnome with a sign that read, "I see your aura." And then Lydia walked in, loose, perfectly pressed, eyes glassy. She marched to the podium, set down a binder, and raised a gnome. Magnus, the enforcer. "This is not just decoration," she announced. "This is order, discipline, protection." Someone in the back muttered, "From what?" Laughter. The room cracked. Shouting. Laughter. One man yelled, "Did Magnus tell you to find my kid for his chalk dinosaur?" That's when Jack stood up, calm, cane in hand. "I motion to remove Lydia Crowley from the HOA presidency, effective immediately." Cheers, seconded, voted. She screamed, "You're all inviting chaos. They warned me this would happen." Then she slammed Magnus on the podium. He bounced, shattered, and just like that, her power broke. She ran out, dragging a wagon full of gnomes behind her. Days later, she was gone. No farewell. Just a U-Haul full of ceramic soldiers and a note left behind. "Do not disturb the shrubs. They remember." We rewrote the chalkboard outside the clubhouse. "Decorate freely." Sarah, single mom, chalk dino defender, became our new HOA president. I got roped into being the pumpkin commissioner. Yes, that's now a real title. And that Halloween, it was magical. Inflatable skeletons, kids in gnome costumes. One guy projected Ghostbusters onto the side of his garage, and nobody got a single fine. But just when I thought it was over, I got a letter. No return address. Just one line. Handwritten, "You may think you won, but I planted seeds." I laughed. Not because it wasn't creepy, but because for the first time, we weren't scared anymore. We took back our neighborhood, not with pitchforks, but with pumpkins, porch lights, and the courage to say, "No more gnome nonsense. And if Lydia ever tries to come back, we're ready." Now I've got to ask you, have you ever dealt with a power-hungry HOA? Do you think these organizations sometimes go too far? Or are they just misunderstood? Drop your stories in the comments. I'd love to hear how wild it's gotten in your neighborhood. And hey, if your lawn gnome starts whispering to you in the middle of the night, maybe, just maybe, it's time to run.